The HomeTech podcast is supported by you. To find out more, go to HomeTech.fm/support.
This is the HomeTech podcast for Friday, May 3rd from Denver, Colorado. I'm Jason Griffin.
And from sunny Sarasota, Florida, I'm Seth Johnson. Jason, what's going on, man?
You know, I'm biting my tongue here, Seth, because I think, if I recall correctly, you're a little bit behind on Game of Thrones.
Yes. Little bit doesn't describe how far behind. I think I'm at least 3 seasons behind at this point.
It's like a cultural phenomenon, and I can't even talk about it on the show.
Nope. You can't. No spoilers. No spoilers.
No spoilers. And we may have listeners who are behind too, so we don't want to spoil anything. But
I've seen the Avengers movie, the one Endgame, Avengers Endgame.
Okay.
And that one, it's a very good movie. There's a ton of spoilers.
I've heard.
Yeah. And it's good. It's a good movie. Like if you like the Avengers movies, if you like the first Avengers movie, I think you like this Avengers movie. Like it is a great they like this hopping on the cake. I think like everything that you could possibly want is in this movie and more.
I heard it was like 3 hours long.
It is 3 hours long. So you're gonna want to get an adult Depends and flip that thing on before you go in there.
And leave the kids at home for this one.
You're gonna definitely need to leave the kids at home on this one. It was. I was kind of cracking up because I was sitting there probably around the 2 hour 50-minute mark, just like turning yellow. But I was watching everybody else like during that time, like get up and how many people were getting up and going in and just
make sure you're nice and dehydrated.
Yeah. I mean, I went to one of the fancy theaters and had like this nice gin, and it was actually just gin on the rocks and just a Coke. So like I was like, oh, I'm ready for this movie. And then I realized, oh yeah, this is a 3 hour movie, and that's why all these people are getting up. And then
oops,
it's time to go. So yeah, good movie. Highly recommend it. I hear Game of Thrones is pretty good this season. So
it's very good, but I am not going to say anything more about it.
All right,
because we're not a show that. No spoilers here on HomeTech.
No, we'll have to catch up one of these days with it. It's on the to-do list.
What do you say instead we jump into some HomeTech headlines?
Yeah, let's do it. The CE Pro 100 list for 2019 has been released. Continuing an upward trend since the end of the Great Recession, the group reported booking solid revenues in 2018. The group of 100's median revenues were around $5.2 million. Not bad. Up 1% from the previous year. Many other key business metrics along members of the list are also robust, including a predicted 12.7% growth rate for 2019.
Very interesting.
Pretty good.
Yeah. The predicted growth rate's always interesting because that's obviously just a prediction, right? So you don't, it's sort of a good, I think, indicator of, I guess, by proxy, consumer confidence, what you're seeing there from integrators.
What did they say last year?
Yeah, I don't remember. That's a good question. One thing that
did they say 12 last year and we only went up 1%? And it's not good.
Yeah, it's interesting because anecdotally, I hear also integrators talking about just feeling like things are slowing down a little bit. So hard to say what's going on there. It did jump out at me though. For 2019, CE Pro 100 members reported earning an average of 7.1% of their revenues from recurring monthly revenue. So again, I don't recall how that stacks up against last year, but I do like seeing the coverage from CE Pro about recurring revenue. As you know, I do believe it's a big part of the puzzle moving forward. So it'll be interesting to dig into that report when I have a little bit more time and see what else it contains. But moving on here, Savant has introduced its new micro aperture powered speakers. The architectural speakers utilize Power over Ethernet, PoE, to help streamline the delivery of power to speakers in a whole house AV system. Each micro aperture speaker incorporates a built-in amplifier, which Savant claims helps reduce installation times for integrators. According to Savant, the use of an active built-in amplifier also helps maintain sound quality because the speaker and amp keep the digital audio signal in the digital domain throughout the entire signal chain. So pretty interesting development here.
Yeah, so video over IP was, started out in commercial about 10 years ago, and it's pretty darn popular right now in our industry. And audio over IP has been in the commercial realm for quite a long time too, but hasn't made it over. So I'm I'm glad to finally start seeing these audio over P type devices being brought from the commercial side into the residential side, because you definitely get some performance gains out of having, tiny little big amplifiers, the big digital amplifiers, kind of like being built right into the speaker themselves.
Right.
A lot you can do with audio and moving things around the house that it's a lot easier if it's over an Ethernet cable rather than the old, analog RCA cables.
Yeah, the story alludes to that, and I did think that was interesting. It says because each speaker points out how they're individually controlled and connected to the network, so it gives you flexibility to sort of switch room configurations pretty dynamically using network routing. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if this sort of technology takes hold in the home moving forward.
Yeah, it will be. Revealed late last year, Wyze has inspirations beyond Wi-Fi video cameras, and it's expanding into full-on home automation capabilities with the new Wyze Sense Kit. This $20 bundle, 20 whole dang dollars, wow, includes a wireless bridge that's powered by the $26 Wyze Cam to communicate with the motion sensor and 2 contact sensor pairs. This means that you can now monitor your home for under $50. Pretty cool. I saw Dave Zatz was posting, I think he had one of those, and he was kind of posting some things pictures of the tiny little sensors that come with it, and like the camera and all that good stuff earlier this week, maybe even today.
Yep. Yeah, it's insanely low price. I mean, I can't believe it. And Dave Zatz writes in his piece exactly what I thought when I first read the initial paragraph, and he says, as an industry veteran, I can tell you with certainty that sales of $20 to $30 hardware cannot sustain a company. He goes on to say, as such, he fully expects to see some sort of Wyze service subscription to be introduced, which, incidentally, I completely agree with it. I have voiced this numerous times on the show, and I just cannot figure out how on earth Wyze is selling these things for so cheap, yet, if I recall correctly, they claim to be making money on them. So really interesting, and
selling your data somewhere.
Race to zero. Yeah, exactly. All right, moving on here. Amazon is said to be working on a high-fidelity streaming platform that may arrive later this year for around $15 a month. Amazon, this is a music platform, by the way. Amazon Music Unlimited starts at $4 a month by comparison, while Amazon recently added a free ad-supported music service to Alexa devices last week. The rumored upcoming platform will reportedly offer better than CD quality music. So far, at least one major record company has signed up, according to Music Business Worldwide, while Amazon is supposedly in talks with other significant rights holders. And I wish we were a video show so people could see how you reacted as I was reading the lead there. But yeah, it's crazy. So this is now like, I guess 3 or technically 4 different streaming services that Amazon would have. They've got the free one and then the one you get with Prime, but I think those two are like pretty much the same as far as what you get. So it's, essentially the same thing. Then you've got Music Unlimited. Now you've got a high fidelity option. So very consistent here with Amazon's, what I call their spaghetti strategy. Throw it at the wall.
A whole lot of spaghetti, because I am so confused about what I mean. I'm going to need like a spreadsheet, an Excel sheet to keep up with the Amazon.
That's right.
Ah, man, and you're gonna get CD quality music out of that Echo, I'm sure. So sign up for this thing.
Shh, you're not supposed to talk about that.
All right. Well, earlier this year, Hulu reacted to Netflix price increases by slashing the cost of the cheapest plan to $6 per month. That move appears to have paid off. Hulu's membership has grown 12% since the start of the year to 28 million subscribers. Not all of those subscribers are paying members. 1.3 million are on the free promotional plans, but the company has been able to add paying members at a fast clip. Paid memberships are now up 16.5% over the same period last year.
That is pretty wild. Went on to read the story. It does talk about how Hulu is continuing to lose money, which is still amazing to me. Blows my mind.
Bonkers. Yeah.
It's a Disney and Comcast owned service, as we've talked about before on the show. So it's an interesting dynamic you have going on here with Disney being, a stakeholder in that, as well as the new Disney Plus service coming out, and how this is sort of going to play out for Netflix, who's losing access to some of the content, like Marvel in particular. A lot of shows being pulled from Netflix there. So really interesting landscape. And we've seen a lot of price increases this year, and it looks like Hulu's been one of the few to lower prices, at least on one of their tiers, and appears to be paying off. So we'll have to keep an eye on that.
I've seen a couple of like originals come up that like there's a Catch-22 original that's coming on with George Clooney. I was just looking for the preview of it. I couldn't find it, but looks pretty good. And like the old Catch-22 book, they're kind of make a little tiny movie / miniseries out of it, I guess. And big name actor in it. So yeah, it should be, I can see where the money's going.
Yeah. No.
But will be interesting to see how they can do that on $6 a month.
Yeah, no kidding. Deep pockets. That's how.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of streaming, 2 former Roku executives are getting ready to compete with their old colleagues in the TV advertising space. Steve Shannon, who was formerly the vice president of content, and Jim Lombard, who headed advertising sales at Roku, have come out of stealth mode with their new smart TV advertising startup, Tetra TV. This happened earlier this week. Tetra TV wants to help advertisers reach audiences across all connected TV platforms, explained Shannon in a recent conversation with Variety. Advertisers are excited about connected TV, he said, predicting that the entire $70 billion TV advertising market would eventually move to streaming media.
Yeah, they just want to track you. That's all.
Yeah. The story does go on to talk about how it's been a very, quote, heterogeneous environment. Lots of different apps and devices, and that, of course, makes it difficult for advertisers to have a broad reach, and that appears to be the problem they're trying to solve. So, mechanics aside, it is interesting to think about how the growth of streaming is going to affect advertising as we know it today.
Yeah. Speaking of streaming, Jason, I'm glad you had to summarize this one. A new paper from the Harvard Kennedy School's Shorenstein Center argues that news of all things is the killer app for streaming, and will be the key to winning the streaming war in the future. I thought this was a very comprehensive. It's probably like 20 or 30. I don't know. It's very, very long, and it makes a pretty good argument. But I think there's a pretty good takeaway in there that it says news has proven in every medium throughout time to be the successful hook to attract and retain an audience. And at the moment, the market leader, meaning Netflix in this case, is not all in on news. To the investor, the reinvestor, and the news disruptor, whether legacy or digital native, go the spoils. So it will be interesting to see if some of these this paper is really actually pretty good in its sourcing of everything, and it will be interesting to see if we see things like little news shows start to pop up on things like Netflix or these other streaming services. I know that like HBO, you can say it has the one with John Oliver on it.
Last Week Tonight or something like that.
Last Week Tonight, yeah. There have been a couple that have popped up on Netflix, but they were just kind of like, I don't know. They popped up in the feed and then they just went away as fast as they showed up. So I'm not sure what's going on there. So it will be interesting to see what happens with news in the future.
Yeah, it is something we don't talk about a lot. And you look at the list of the companies or streaming platforms that the paper examines, and you've got Amazon Prime Video, Cheddar. I don't know anything about that one. Only by name.
It's a cheese one or something.
It's a common type of cheese. Hulu, Netflix, YouTube obviously has some stuff, but like a lot of these, you just don't think about news when you think about streaming, and so it is interesting to consider. I admittedly don't watch a ton of news. I frankly don't watch much TV at all these days, but when you do think about the sort of mainstream move of TV viewing away from traditional means and more over to streaming, then certainly it does make sense that news will play a big part in attracting a more mainstream audience.
There's a pretty cool picture that was associated with this. If you scroll down far enough, you'll find it. But it's part of this paper here, and it's got all of the big streaming vendors on there: Disney, AT&T, Discovery Communications, Apple, Netflix, Cheddar, Hulu, Vice. And it has like their, how much the companies are worth if it's known, like, Apple Apple's on there. They don't really have how much they're investing in that right there, but like Netflix has what 15 billion it looks like. Disney's $59 billion company. AT&T, Warner Media is $171 billion. Like, Viacom, I don't ever think of them, but they're in the streaming game with a number of channels and content creation studios. So just interesting to see. This is kind of like the landscape of where streaming is these days, and kind of where, if you look at this, like you see ESPN on there. I mean, that's news, right? So like,
Yep.
Yeah, you see that on there, and you're like, oh yeah, that's news. That people will pay for that, and I think there's an ESPN Plus service now, or will be coming out, where people can pay for sports ball, and all that good stuff that you get from ESPN.
Yeah, absolutely. So go check that out. We will include, of course, a link to that in our show notes at HomeTech.fm/256. Moving on from there, Anki, I think that's how you pronounce it, Anki.
Anki,
the robotics company, Anki.
Tomato.
We'll go with Anki. The robotics company that raised over $200 million in venture capital is laying off its entire staff, and the startup is shuttering, Recode has learned. In a teary all-hands meeting on Monday morning, CEO Boris Softman told his staff they would be terminated on Wednesday. It was a 2-day notice there.
Wow.
And that close to 200 employees would be paid a week of severance, according to people familiar with the matter. Softman told employees that a few days earlier that the company was scrambling to find money after a new round of financing fell through at the last minute, imperiling the company's future. So that is an abrupt ending to a company that, I mean, they raised a lot of money. $200 million is nothing to sneeze at. And story does talk about how they had approached $100 million in revenue in 2017, according to the story, which, the story says, so we're not talking about some small lemonade stand closing down here.
Right. Well, they were on our radar. We had these guys when we talked about like ideas around the holidays for gifts. They were doing some serious advertising and all over the tech space, and it looked like a really cool little product, and I think we talked about it quite a bit there on the holiday season. So
yeah, it was a little Cosmo robot I think we were talking about.
Yeah, that's too bad. And man, that's rough being in a startup.
No kidding.
That sucks to get a 2 days notice, and wow.
And 1 week severance.
Yeah, no good.
Bummer.
Well, this isn't any better news. So sales of August's new $230 wire-free August View video doorbell are being halted, and some consumers are receiving refunds less than 3 weeks since the smart doorbell started shipping. The Verge notes that August cites early reliability issues for some customers as the reason for the sudden halt. In a statement announcing the stoppage of shipments, August cites performance and challenges in specific user environments. Putting a doorbell outside and expecting it to connect to Wi-Fi inside is probably not the easiest thing to do in my opinion. Users have experienced numerous connectivity and streaming issues while testing the device. CNET reported long delays while connected to the View live video through the August app in its testing. So not Wi-Fi outside the house, not easy. Wi-Fi in the house is not easy. Wi-Fi outside, not easy either.
Not easy at all. Interesting sidebar here. Apologize if the noise is coming through. Sounds like a herd of elephants in the kitchen above me. That's my kids. So bear with me if that's coming through on your headphones this week. I do apologize. But yeah, this is an interesting one. It says customers on Amazon have had similar issues. The View currently has a 1.5 star rating across 40 different reviews. So that's not a ton of reviews, but a very low rating. Nonetheless, it's been a tough year in hardware. Story talks about AirPower, the Samsung Galaxy Fold. Hardware's a tough business, I guess. The proof is there.
Yeah. And building something as small as a door. I mean, we take it for granted that we've had, devices like Doorbird and Ring and those types of things out for as long as they've been out, and they've been working as well as they have been for as long as they have been. But there were times where they messed up and didn't ship product that was working well, in the past. So I feel for these guys. It's got to be hard to ship something like that or get up. I mean, it sounds like they were right up to the last minute. Like this was either just being sold or had just started shipping, and now they're having to recall them all.
Yeah, not good at all. Let's see if we can brighten things up a little bit here, Seth. What do you say?
Like with maybe a dream machine?
Yeah. That would be perfect if we had a story that talked about a dream machine. Oh, look at this. Amazing. Ubiquiti is well known for its professional networking equipment, but has recently been branching out. The company has unveiled its latest Wi-Fi router, a consumer product, which brings a suite of pro-grade features to its new consumer-friendly design. The Unify Dream Machine launches with an all-in-one design that touts up to 1,000 megabytes per second speeds, professional network management, and much more. The new Unified Dream Machine will be launching with a $299 price tag. It is now available for purchase as part of the company's early access program, which is free to sign up for and will be available at retailers like B&H very soon.
It is not available for sale because they are sold out. So,
oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
This is really, really kind of an interesting piece. I have Ubiquiti Amplify at my house, and the biggest problem I have with it is that I can't tie it into, any kind of remote management software. You can use like a Google, you log in with your Google address or something like that, account, and you can kind of like add devices into like a single managed account, if that makes sense. And it kind of just like ties it together, and you just connect to it normally, just kind of lists the ones that you have tied to that account out. But it's not as comprehensive as a thing like the Unify, control network controllers interface that they have. So this is a really cool kind of, I think, pro consumer is probably the best way to describe it. It's got a 4.0 switch in it. It's got the security gateway built into it. It's got dual band 802.11ac. I don't know what Wi-Fi version is that. Is that version 4, 7? I
can't help you there.
It's got Wi-Fi built into it. Yeah, it's got, and they also have that didn't quite get reported, like little plug-in mesh devices that you can plug into the wall. They're not very well designed because they take up the entire plug, like they cover the entire plug on the wall.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, not the best design, but they did look kind of neat. And I guess where I think this would actually, for me, would replace where I would install Amplify in most situations, because I like to have that overall dashboard when I go in and see what customers are doing. Like I like to see all the systems lined up in front of me. And you can't really do that through the Amplify system because it's all just on your phone. So I like this. This is going to fill a good niche, I think, inside the Unify system. I don't know, having it like as an all-in-one piece and kind of integrated together, I'm kind of iffy on, because what if something in there goes wrong? Then you're down an entire $299 router, which with the other type of system, like you could just swap out the piece that was broken. So kind of some advantages and some disadvantages to this system. Yeah,
no, I agree. But all the same, it does look like a pretty neat offering. Really nice industrial design, which I would say is pretty typical for Unify. If you've been a fan of sort of the look and feel, if you're a geek for this sort of thing, you'll like this one as well. So yeah, I agree. It's an interesting offering, and Ubiquiti is just an interesting company all around. Like they have their big footprint in sort of like carrier grade networking equipment, and then they were still very much are like a professional networking solution. But we're seeing them increasingly make moves in the consumer space as well, and this will be an interesting one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, it's definitely a good piece for most people who just need like a meshed Wi-Fi system in their house. And want to have something a little bit more than the Amplify. And I would say I'm a pretty good target customer for this, other than the fact I don't like the design. I want to put this in my rack, and like I can't put this in my rack.
Yeah.
and expect it to work very well. But
that's true. That's true. Well, with a name like Dream Machine, it's got to be good.
Yeah. I do like that it's all kind of built together. Like it has the controller, it has the USG built into it, it has a 4-port switch, and like it's like a Unify system in a box.
Right.
Or can.
Ponder that one.
Yeah, for $299, it's not a bad price point, and I think a lot of people who are going out and buying like a Cloud Key and a USG and maybe some access points, some of their pro access points, and setting up a system in the house. This is probably going to be more appropriate for them in the long run and work better for them.
Right.
Moving forward.
Right. All right. Well, moving on here. Congress is taking yet another swing at legislation that will help secure devices in the IoT world. With previous attempts failing to protect consumers adequately, this time Congress is planning on asking the more tech-savvy National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, and the Office of Management and Budget, the OMB, to come up with a framework the government can use to build a list of characteristics for secure connected devices. The IoT, or Internet of Things, Cybersecurity Improvement Act of 2019 would also require the NIST to evaluate device security and update standards every 5 years. The bill is not yet out to committee, but at least we can all rest easy knowing the government might do something about IoT security in the future.
That wasn't written at all with tongue in cheek. I think this is actually, if they do this, I think this is actually a good thing, because we've had, like, in the past, do you remember, like, they banned a bunch of, like, Dahua cameras and stuff from being sold to government contractors, and there was a big dust up over that. They really Congress is not who you want legislating cybersecurity law or security law in general. So, like, subbing it out to maybe the OMB and the NIST to do this, to come up with, like, together as those two agencies, to come up with, like, non-competing standards for the government to use, I think this could be a home run. It's going to be a better bill that we've had in the past. And at least, like, NIST has done some things in the past, like, where I know NIST from is, like, when you have to change your password on some corporate system every, month or whatever, that came from those guys. Like, that requirement came from those guys. It was a horrible requirement, and they eventually removed it.
Yep.
And said, no, it's much more secure to have a strong password than one that's, just has the number, the next number added onto it every month.
Yeah.
Because that's all people could ever do. But so they at least are tech savvy enough agency within the government to come up with these standards and in these lists of characteristics for devices over than what Congress critters can do.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully here in the future, and the U.S. government might actually take a lead on something, and come up with a list of characteristics for devices that we can call secure. You see states like California recently had passed something that requires you to have a password, a strong password to be set, and not password 1234 on an IoT device. So that was good, and for any device that had to be sold in California, which is quite a lot. And then you're probably going to see something come out of Europe. I'm sure that the European Union will probably have some type of IoT legislation. These, like, botnet attacks can't be our normal thing. And we've talked about, like, security being a big deal in the IoT world, and it just hasn't, like, really happened. I think the awareness is there. You that botnets are out there and doing crazy things, and mining for Bitcoin, I'm sure. But right now, like, we really haven't improved the legislation. Like, what happens when a company makes a product and has a poorly done security implementation on it? Like, what happens at that point? And I think we're finally going to get there. These wheels are going to move pretty slowly, but we're finally going to get there and have at least a roadmap to go on to navigate down this tricky world of security. It's tough. Security is very tough, and when you're making a device or a product, security is on your mind, but getting the thing to work is much more important. And I can tell you that from experience. Like, security is often the last thing you think of. And when it's one of the first things you have to think of and do, it really kind of turns the project on its head, or it can turn the project on its head, because you have to plan from the beginning.
Right.
So this might be a good thing for us.
Yeah, I think it certainly can't be a bad thing. It's a growing problem, and there's growing awareness around it, and that is unquestionably a good thing. And we'll see. I think the risk with these things, or the thing to always kind of look out for, is the overly bureaucratic nature of some of these things, or how they can tend towards that. So, for example, like this story talks about how let's see, it'll be up to the NIST to figure out the requirements for a secure device, but then it's up to the OMB to direct federal agencies how they should adopt the NIST guidelines. Now, that sounds a little bit redundant or like too many layers, but I think this was written by Stacey Higginbotham, this article that we're reading here.
Well, that's just for the government side,
right?
Of it. Like when the NIST comes out with those requirements, it's just like the password thing. Like it's up there on the website for anybody to look at, and then you and I as consumers can look at those requirements and say, okay, does this new device that I bought from Ring conform to this? Or and Ring, as they're planning their products out, could say, oh, well, the government says this is a good practice, let's implement that on our systems, and we'll meet these standards.
Yeah, and the article also points out that like you said, this is for the government, and the National Park Service probably doesn't have the same security guidelines as the Department of Defense, right? So like it does make sense that there would be this sort of multi-layered approach for the government when it comes to protecting information, and we should all be concerned with how our government is approaching cybersecurity. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think this is a good thing to see, and we'll have to keep an eye on it. We'll see how it develops. Like we alluded to there when we kicked the story off, it is still pretty early in the process here. So, we'll have to wait and see.
Yep, it's definitely going to be a wait and see thing. We'll have to wait and see what they come up with. So, hopefully we'll get something. Hopefully we'll get something out of them, though. You never know. You never know with politics, U.S. politics these days. But hopefully we'll see something
that is
out of this that we can actually look at and say, okay, that's a good idea.
Right.
So, all the links and topics we've discussed tonight can be found in our show notes at HomeTech.fm/256. While you're there, don't forget to sign up for our weekly newsletter, which can include even further analysis, as well as other industry news that may not have made the show. Again, that link is HomeTech.fm/256.
Also, don't forget you can join us in the chat room as we live stream on Wednesdays, typically starting around 7 or 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Find out more at HomeTech.fm/live. Again, that's HomeTech.fm/live, or follow us over on Twitter at HomeTech Podcast. And I know we always send out an announcement before we go live, and we'd love to have you join us in the chat room sometime. We have a lot of fun with that.
So nothing in the mailbag this week, but we do have a little pick of the week, and this kind of ties in with our security-focused discussion that we had earlier. I ran across this on 9to5Mac, and it's called the Princeton IoT Inspector. It's a little program that I guess Princeton, or it's like almost a survey, I guess, that Princeton has set up to like monitor your devices and keep an eye on your network and tell you what your IoT devices are doing.
Yeah, it is an interesting find, and the picture here gives you an idea for what the log looks like, and the article sort of talks about how it works, I guess, HomeKit and non-HomeKit device. So it is a Mac-only app for now, is worth mentioning.
For now, yeah.
It provides you with a list of all of the IoT devices on your home network. I'm not sure exactly how they decide what's an IoT device and what's not. That's not totally clear to me.
Well, I can tell you, I've loaded it on my computer, and it goes out and scans everything on your network. So I've got 40 some odd devices on my network. And then it knows that like my computer is not an IoT device. So it by the MAC address, I guess, and it says, Apple operating system, it'll have a little non-IoT tag on there. But other than that, like I really can't figure out what this thing is doing. Like it doesn't seem like it's done very much.
Yeah, the author talks about, though, how he can see his Philips Hue contacting meethue.com, exchanging 6 kilobytes of data, unencrypted communication. So, I don't know. It's I guess a good tool for awareness. Gizmodo did come up with a very practical use that I thought was interesting. And I stay in Airbnbs occasionally when I travel, and there's always there's this sad or sick trend of people putting hidden cameras in Airbnbs. And I was sort of worried in the back of my mind about that. And Gizmodo points out that you could use this if you have a Mac and you're in an Airbnb and you're on the Wi-Fi, you could use it to check for cameras on the network, which is kind of an interesting use case there. But yeah, in the home, I'm not totally sure exactly how this plays out or what the practical implications are of having a tool like this, but I think generally anything that gives you a little bit more visibility and awareness into what's going on your network is generally a good thing.
Yeah, I can see, it's kind of interesting. I can see the devices that I have. So I have you remember my clock, my little Lemetric clock that I have over here?
I do.
It's listed on here, and it tells me that this device has reached out and talked to Lemetric.com. It says maybe an IoT messaging ? And then it's got service MQTT, which is a common IoT communication protocol. So it doesn't, and I don't know if I can see the messages. Oh yeah, well I guess I can kind of see some stuff here, but it tells me that one device has talked to a couple of things. My blackwiredesigns.com, my website, Twitter, Google, Twitter, and Lemetric. So it's done a couple of things here, which is kind of interesting. And I can't see the message, but I can see that is, I guess it may be encrypted, but I can see where it's gone and what it's doing. So if you kind of want to keep an eye on what devices are doing and what endpoints they're communicating with, this might be a little pretty good tool for you. Here's one that's going. My Kavo is going to Kavo.com. So there you go.
There you go. Go figure. All right. Well, yeah, if you're interested in that, go check it out. Again, HomeTech.fm/256 is where we will have a link to that. If you have any feedback, questions, comments, picks of the week, or ideas for a show topic or guest, definitely give us a shout. Our email address is feedback@HomeTech.fm. Once again, that's feedback@HomeTech.fm, or you can visit our site at HomeTech.fm/feedback and fill out our online form.
And we want to give a big thank you to everyone who supports the show, but especially those who are able to financially support us through our Patreon page. If you don't know about our Patreon page, head on over to HomeTech.fm/support to learn how you can support HomeTech for as little as $1 per month. Any pledge over $5 a month gets you a big shout out on the show, but every pledge gets you an invite to our private Slack channel, The Hub, where you and other supporters of the show can gather every day for the inside baseball conversations about all aspects of home technology.
Absolutely. And if you can't support the show financially, we totally get it. We would love if you would take just 2 minutes and go give us a review on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Those reviews definitely do help other people find the show, and so we would tremendously appreciate you taking a couple of minutes to do that. All right, well, that will do it for this week's show. We hope you enjoyed, and we thank you so much for tuning in. As always, we really appreciate that. And Seth, hope you have a great weekend. I will look forward to reconnecting with you again next week.
Sounds good. Have a great weekend, Jason.
All right, take care.